Right. Good morning, Paul. This is the first in our interview series of a few short videos that we want to take people on a bit of a journey through the BE space. And to start off, we thought of talking about the 3% revenue proposal that came out. And I think the both of us met with Alan Knott-Craig earlier in the year, and he came up with this plan to rather use 3% of turnover or revenue than the net profit rules and the rest of the scorecard. So to start off with, what is your take on revenue versus net profit in this space and using that as a driver for the BEE scorecard?
So Alan Knott-Craig, let's be specific, saw an opportunity to try and get that BE fund that the Department of Trade and Industry and Competition is putting together. He just saw it as an easy way of getting money in, and he's making the right noises to Parks Tower. And let's face it, Alan Knott-Craig Jr. can get into those places where mortals like ourselves can't. We can't even find parking out there in Mankey Street. It's complete pie in the sky because the cost of compliance, 3% of revenue, and I'm not the best to talk about this. I did accounts one twice. The first one was 8 months and the second one was 8 minutes. But the cost of compliance is so overwhelming. And that's the first thing. So the cost of compliance might make it simpler, but it is overwhelming considering that, let's say you don't make a profit. So where is this money going to come from? So 3% of revenue is, so it's only applicable. So let's make it 100 million rand company is 3 million rand, and you don't make a profit. Like, where is that money going to come from? And secondly, how does that deal with the fact that the emphasis has always been on black ownership? So it might be more attractive if they say 3% of revenue and we give you 100% black ownership recognition. They have something called a BE facilitator. So if they gave every single one of these companies BE facilitator status, but made it attractive. So a BE facilitator is something given to state entities like the PIC, which has not been given, where they say that you get all the points for ownership, everything. You get all the points for ownership, male, black, female, designated group, new entrants, you get all those points. But they need to make it more attractive and say you're at least 51% black owned. Under those circumstances, there might be, if they say you pay the money, and you get your level 3 status and you are 51% black owned and black female owned and da da da, I think we may be in with a chance of getting some success. That's just on a conceptual level.
Quickly talk about the simplicity of this and how much easier is it to go through this process of working on revenue versus working on a scorecard and all of the rest of it that normally applies?
It's substantially easier. Compare it to what it takes to write out an affidavit, because you turn over less than 50 million and you've got 51% black ownership. So I would imagine that there would, in the ideal world, there would be an online portal. You fill it in, you pay your money, you get your certificate, it's done, versus going through a complete and utter verification, which can take anywhere between 3 months and forever, plus the costs associated. The cost will always be less than 3% of revenue, though, for full compliance, including our fee plus the verification fee, always be less.
Yeah, that makes sense.
No, maybe with skills development, if you had to look at it as a contribution, 6% of payroll, be interesting to see what 6% of payroll compares to 3% of revenue. So it might not be less. It might not be less. It might be full verification, might be more, but too many variables.
Yeah, it probably depends on the driver of payroll, because employee intense businesses would be higher and other ones would be lower. So it depends on that variable, I suppose. If you think about it, the proposal is to pay 3% of turnover and then get to a level 3, whereas you still have level 1s and 2s out there at the moment. So what is the benefit of being a level 3? Is it worth someone's while?
For the average company, probably. Let's take competitive industries like in the financial sector, where all the banks and all the major insurance companies are all at a level 1, and that's where they need to be. So yeah, it's I think what Alan has done is he said, we'll give you a level 3, which is very competitive. It's better than a level 4. It's 110% recognition on the procurement scorecard, but it's not as good as a level 1 if your competitors are operating at a level 1. So I hadn't thought about that, but I remain that it's so pie in the sky. And I'll tell you why it's so pie in the sky is because that fund needs to be managed by someone. It's a DTIC fund, and it needs to be managed by someone. And the history of the government in the past is they've outsourced it to people who have never ever managed anything like that before. So even if they gave it to a reliable fund manager that was based in Switzerland, we would not trust it. So it's that's why it's pie in the sky, because the fundamental trust when it comes to government managing third party funds and institutions, their history is dire. And I'm being optimistic here when I say that.
Paul, I want to ask quickly, if you look at what is being proposed and the traditional way of the scorecards, those are two completely different concepts at the moment. Do you see them actually working in unison, working together and complementing each other? Because other companies might not opt for the 3%, or they might, through some legislation, be excluded from that, prohibited from using it. Do you see the two working together? Would the one impact the other one's procurement points? Do you see a life for the scorecard as it is when this new rule potentially comes in?
Everyone went for it. So let's say every single company turning over less than 50 million plugs into Ownershield and they get their 51% black ownership. And then everybody else above that just went for that. Then BE dies because procurement's the glue. Your point is valid. Procurement is the element that sticks it all together. That's why it exists, because I want to get procurement points. You're going to give me your BE score. I'm going to calculate my procurement points based on that. And they could work, but in a utopian world where everyone went for it, BE dies and then the entire thing dies. Just on that, what's interesting about the Namibian empowerment process called NEEF, NEEF, it's the new equitable empowerment something framework. I am the expert on it, but I don't know how to even put words to the acronym. They don't have a procurement element, so it's dead. It can never ever work because there's no procurement element. And I presented to them on more than one occasion and said, this is the problem. If you don't have a procurement element, if you don't have something that makes people do something, they're not going to do it.
Yeah, very good. Maybe to end off with, Paul, if you think about how BE works at the moment, do you fear or think that there's a risk towards job creation, the impact of BE at the moment? And do you think with this coming into effect, would there be a change to those opportunities?
No, not at all. Yeah, there would be an impact. Well, in theory, I think socioeconomic development is probably the one that's going to suffer the most, because that fund hasn't taken socioeconomic development. That was a Jacob Zuma glasses readjustment. So socioeconomic, the charities would suffer. But as far as enterprise and supplier development are concerned, it shouldn't suffer because this fund's supposed to be supporting Black-owned businesses. So, and when it comes to skills development and training and stuff like that, companies do it anyway. They don't need to be told that you have to spend 6% on Black people. They don't need to be told. They need to do it, so they do it anyway. They're just going, industries will die as a result, like those companies that outsource learners and things like that. But for the rest of it, everything will be fine. But these are consequences that Alan doesn't fully appreciate, and all he's doing is just giving Parks Tower some political leverage to create, as that they will use for electioneering purposes next year. But it's not going to work. I think it's so ludicrous that it isn't even worth considering. But I get to have my opinion, I suppose, on this forum.
Yeah, the forum of two. But yeah, thanks, Paul. I appreciate your knowledge on it and your inputs. I think a lot of people will differ from our views and how we think about it. But I do appreciate that there's this drive in public sector and in the government to try and see if there's an opportunity for this. And I suppose it's to fund that 100 billion rand fund that they want to set up more than anything else, and just leveraging off to get that right. Yeah, thanks for your time and looking forward to having a next chat with you at some stage.
Yeah, that'd be good. Thank you, Rudolph.